At some point in youth baseball, it becomes necessary for coaches to call pitches into the catcher, who can then relay them to the pitcher. Up next, the most effective way for a coach to relay signs into the catcher. As pitchers develop, it soon becomes necessary for them to throw more than just fastballs down the center of the plate. Typically, this begins for a pitcher when they have reasonable control over their location and they can throw more than just fastballs. In this video, I want to show an effective method for speeding up the game with quicker pitch relays and to ensure that your system is never broken by opposing teams. When coaching our 11U team, we had teams pick our signs to the catcher a bit too often, and we needed to make a change. If you watch a lot of youth baseball, you notice coaches doing all sorts of things to call pitch type and location into their catcher, from using the face, the body, or even calling fake pitches while another coach is actually giving subtle signs. There are many creative ways to relay signs, but all of them are either easily picked by opposing teams or they are complicated, slow, mistake-prone, and limiting in scope. Here's a game I picked out from 2018. You'll have to excuse a little quality as I had to zoom in a lot to see the coach. The coach, sitting on the bucket, is calling in signs. While I have literally never attempted to pick signs from a coach on pitches, it only took me about 3 to 4 batters to crack his system. His cap, like just about every youth coach for some reason, is the sign indicator. Then he touches a part of his face for fastball, curveball, or changeup. Location, if he gives it, is one of his knees or he indicates low or high. Now this coach is not attempting to be crafty, as most 12U teams don't steal pitch signs. However, if we had wanted to, by the second inning we'd have his signs down. I've also seen card systems used in college. Now in college, picking the other team's sign is practically a college course for credit. So to prevent signs from being picked, they use multiple cards with 125 different pitch possibilities for each card. The problem is for youth players, this is simply too much and too complicated. A college team might use a different card for every inning, and for these to work, it requires paying a fee to use a computer-generated, unique cards for every pitcher. Eventually, I came up with my own system that I suggested to the pitching coach. A system that is very simple and fast, and yet still adequate to call any pitch and location we needed. It is a modified card system. Here's the system we used in 2018 for 12-year-olds. It is a single 5x5 grid with 25 possible pitches and locations. It's 5x5 because the coach is going to use one hand to give the number for the column and the row. Each square contains the pitch type, such as fastball, and the location. Using a 9-square grid over the strike zone, we could call for any of 9 locations. Since a fastball could be called for any location, you will see on this F1 through F9 listed. The more often we might call a pitch, the more often that pitch is on the chart. On this card, the C stands for changeup. Since we had at least one pitcher who could locate the changeup, we had some locations for that pitch on the chart, but C5 would be used most as it's simply a normal changeup. CRV is obviously curve. KP, this is for pitchers with any other type of pitch, such as a knuckleball, a slider, or more than one type of curveball. We used this card and system for every inning of every game in every league we played in during 2018. We never changed cards. It was the exact same grid all year long for about 60 games. You might ask, how did other teams not figure out that 1-2 and 3-5 were curveballs? After all, there's only 2 combinations for a curveball, and surely it was thrown enough to catch on, right? That is where the genius of the system comes into play. We didn't just show 2 numbers. We would show 3 numbers for every pitch. So the curveball could be 1-2-3, 1-2-1, 1-2-5, etc. That means each pitch on the grid could be called using 5 different number combinations. But it gets even better, because the coach can always switch to the second two numbers being the important numbers, or the first and third. He can also swap using the across then down to down then across. Adding these variables means every pitch on the grid could be called using several three-digit combinations, and the opposing team would drive themselves nuts trying to figure it out. In the end, we never did switch it up. All year, over 60 games, we always used the first two numbers, across then down. It did not take long for the catcher to have most of the pitches memorized, and our pitch calling was very fast. We also never had to worry about opposing teams figuring out our system. They never even tried. Whereas in the past, teams would sometimes relay to their hitter what pitch was coming because they knew our system, this season it didn't happen one time. And our catcher never got confused about what pitch we wanted him to signal. I'll end with a game where you can hear the coach call out the three numbers, as he was only standing 10 feet from the catcher. You'll notice that the catcher rarely looks at his card, and when he does, it's for less than a second.
1-5-1. One 5-1. Good pitch, B. Good pitch. 4-4-4. There you go, B. You live there. 3-4-2. Good pitch, B. Good pitch. Hey, good frame, Joe. Good frame. Same.
What are we doing, first two numbers or second?
First. There you go, B. Nice job. 3-2-1.
Oh, this is a good check too. Well, we'll see.
Good pitch, B. One, 1-2.
Wasn't much of a changeup.
No, I told you it wasn't much of a changeup. 4-44. 4-5-3.
No. I don't mean like in a
1-5-2.
Not helping me.
Hey, good spot, B.
Hey, go to work.
Yeah, same. Good job, B. 1-5-1. Good pitch, ready to start out. 4-1-4.
On the outside.
Atta boy, nice job. Nice hitting, boy. Nice. 4-4-1. 4-5-3.
One ball, 2 strikes. Go.
Same.
There.
4-2-1.
One ball, 2 strikes.
person to the left.
Good.
Try the other side.
4-1-4.
Got it.
Attaboy, nice pitch. B, way to hit your spot. 1-5-1.
Oh, hey. Good eye. Go.
Same.
Was he early or was it?
Go, Bryce.
4-2.
There you go, B. Attaboy.
Good job, guys.
Keep it up.
Be ready, clubhouse. Come on.
One more.
Hey, 2 we got, boys. 2 we got. Plays it first.
Be ready.
More. Front of the baseline. 1-5-1.
Good miss.
Yeah, good idea, B. 1-5-5.
I think we need to ride him until he gets him.
Hey, he goes, you get him, Joe. 4-2-4. Outside. I don't mind if he doesn't. That's right, okay. Good spot, B. Good spot. 1-5-1. Good pitch. Same.
We got the steal. Two outs?
Yeah.
Got 2 outs, Joey. 2.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Same. There you go. Nice job, B.